obsessed with how quick I can get people to change and I can get companies to change. I'm just obsessed with it. And once you learn specific principles, you can take these principles and you can apply them to anything in life. And I'm going to give you a variable of tons of different principles and ways that change can be made very, very quickly, whether it be a business strategy, a flying strategy, a phobia strategy. Here's a typical example. I don't typically carry a syringe with me, but today I decided I'd bring a syringe with me. So I had a lady about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago. She saw me on a TV show, and this woman had a massive, I mean massive phobia of syringes. If I said, here's a syringe, she would literally be in tears. If I'm not careful, she'd probably pass out and faint. It was that bad. It was ridiculous. So she decided to seek me out. She hired me, and I just found out actually about a month and a half ago what her therapist did. She was in therapy for a year and a half. All she could get to was the point of lifting her sleeve up so she could prepare possibly in the future to get a shot. A year and a half later. So what does Gary do? Again, I try to, how do I get things faster? How do I get things faster? Now, the nervous system is one of the things that I use to reprogram people, reprogram your thought process, your emotions, your mind. The nervous system cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. Example. Say for a moment that I've got fingernails that are very long, I'm going to rub them across a dry chalkboard. How many of you felt a little something right now? Some of us felt something. How could you have felt something when my fingernails are not long and I don't have a dry chalkboard? Because I planted a picture in your mind, your nervous system reacted to the picture, and then you created an experience from that. So if I know that the nervous system cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality, wouldn't it make sense then to learn how to program or reprogram your nervous system? And if you know how to do it, you can get results faster. Yes or yes? Yes. Yeah. So here's what I did with this lady. So she's afraid of a syringe, can't even show it to her. Now I do all of my work, I would say 99.99% of my work, I do it all virtually. So I got her husband to be my buddy assistant. And I said to him without her even knowing, now keep in mind, I lay a foundation. I can't just tell her what I'm going to tell you and have her change quickly. The foundation is laid. Once the foundation is laid, I then go ahead and implement a strategy, and it works very quickly. So I said to her husband, without her being there, I had him order a bunch of syringes, and I said, I want you to take the syringe, and I want you to chop it up in little tiny pieces. Little tiny pieces. This is a syringe in little tiny pieces. So then we're ready for the therapy, and now remember, if you are deathly phobic of something, or traumatized, or have trauma because of emotional, physical, sexual abuse, loss of a loved one, it could be anything. If it's severe trauma and I mention it to you, you are going to feel a feeling. Yes or yes? Everybody can experience, right? Similar like you're driving down the road, you hear a song. It can bring you a good feeling, it can bring you a bad feeling. Same thing. So what I did to confuse your mind, I would just have something on my desk. It could be anything. I could say, in just a moment, I want you to pretend. Now, if you're deathly phobic and you pretend this remote is a syringe, it is a syringe to you, you will respond negatively. Does that make sense? All right? This is why I can never be faked. Because I understand the programming of the nervous system. I've had TV shows bring me people on who are pretending to be phobic, and I knew for a fact they weren't, because I know how they will respond, and they don't know how to respond if they're being fake. But if you're real, I know in advance how you're going to respond. So her nervous system responded, even though she knew this wasn't a syringe. Once she started getting the idea, I said, okay, let me go get something else. We're going to get a piece of plastic. She doesn't know what the plastic is from. And we put it in her hand. I said, your husband's going to put it in your hand. Is that a problem? And it's the syringe. No problem. She knows it's in her mind not. Until we eventually get the entire pieces of the syringe in her hand. I have her close her hand. I say, take a guess what's in your hand. She had no idea. I said, that's a syringe cut up. Boom. Change made immediately. And she literally, in one session, was holding a syringe, which she could never do. In fact, it was so bad, she couldn't even watch TV because she was afraid that maybe a TV show might have somebody, especially if it was like an emergency room or a hospital thing. She would never be able to even watch the TV because there may be a possibility of a syringe on the TV. So my point here is telling you that when you have something that you're doing in your life, it's kind of like a fly if you're not careful. If you've got a fly here and it's trying to get out the window and it keeps hitting the window and hitting the window and hitting the window and doesn't get out, there's an easier way to do it with a lot less energy. Mr. Fly, take your time, come down to the windowsill, walk your way over, and the window is open and fly out. Because if you're doing this, you're pushing a parked car. You're active, but we're active accomplishing nothing.